What's up, Resource Nation? Welcome to another edition of Masterclass series. And I'm excited because it's the first time in 12 years we have a new guest that hasn't been on, but it's been relevant for 30 plus years. I'm a little starstruck, so stay with me today, guys. But Todd Duncan, this is the same sales mastery, high trust selling, New York Times bestseller. I think CNN even called you the Tony Robbins of the mortgage industry. Well, guys, help me welcome Todd Duncan to the show. Todd, thank you so much.
Hey, man, good to be with you, Ryan, and congrats on your success. And looking forward to our vibe together. And let's have some rant and let's help people win.
Hopefully, okay, first time on the show, hopefully it'll be a reoccurring thing like most of our guests, because we tend to have really good conversations. You've done so much for the industry, which, by the way, thank you. You've done so much, and I've learned so much from, just watching you over the years. So my goal is to try to leverage and pull all that gold, all that brilliance out of you over the next 25, 30 minutes, however long we go. And I'm going to get right into it because I don't want to bore people. But I was watching, actually listening to one of your podcasts with Alec Hanson the other day, and I love the story that you told. And you were talking about being in the business for the first time, your first year. You said prime was like 20%. We were in a recession and everybody was down and you're happy-go-lucky. And this is why I think it's relevant. Let me kind of ask you a long question I'll throw to you. But you said this. You said, rumor has it, we're in a recession, but I'm not participating. And you just kind of walked around with that like positive vibe. And I love the mindset because, guys, guess what? Rumor has it, we're in a war. Rumor has it, we're in a rising rate environment. Rumor has it, we're in an environment where volume's shrinking. Like, guess what? We don't have to participate. So right out of the gate, I think it's so relevant to talk about, hey, this is the environment that we're in. Sure, we can acknowledge that, but it doesn't mean we have to participate. It means that we can also set ourselves up for unprecedented success versus having to shrink back with the market. So talk to us about that mindset when you started and why that's, again, relevant today. Like, how'd you get that?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And shout out to Alec. He's a really, really cool influencer, and he and I have got a good friendship going. And it was good to have that time with him. So I think the first message that I want to send, and then I'll answer the question directly, is don't let markets define you. Define how you're going to be in whatever market you find yourself. And I think that's incredibly relevant because markets come and go. Good markets come and go. Hard markets come and go. This is one big cycle, and from the time I did my first loan in 1980 until today, we've been through these cycles, right? And when you look at what the forecasts are, and I'm not at all interested in forecasts because I'm interested in doom and gloom. I'm interested in forecasts because I'm interested in preparation, right? And I'd rather be prepared and not need it than need it and not be prepared. And that was the message I got when I was a brand new loan originator, because if you think about today in the modern day world, you're hearing all of these reflective numbers, the inflation numbers and the CPI numbers and the PPI numbers and all these numbers, you're hearing them and they're saying a 40-year high. Well, guess what happened 40 years ago? 40 years ago, I became a loan officer. And in 1980, interest rates on govies were 17 and a half, 18 and a half points, 5-6 points. You did a piggyback first and second, it was 18.7. Unemployment was 13%. Consumer confidence was in the frickin' tank. Nobody even conceived that in this recession you could do anything positive. Gasoline was the equivalent today of $4 a gallon then. And I just filled up yesterday for $6.39 a gallon. And I'm going, okay, this is not like, how am I going to be positive about that? Well, I'm not, but it doesn't matter. It's reality. And so how do you deal with reality? So go all the way back. And Ryan, what you're referencing is I made a decision. I want to give my grandmother credit because she bought me a book called Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, written by W. Clement Stone and Napoleon Hill. And the big takeaway that I still remember today is there's very little difference between success and failure. There's very little difference between successful people and unsuccessful people. The little difference is the big difference. The little difference is attitude, and the big difference is whether it's positive or not. And so what I tell people is I say, I had to approach being a brand new LO and in a market that was probably the most horrible market that you could ever go straight commission right out of college to try to make something happen. And I chose positivity. And so my mom and dad had some friends that owned a printing shop. I had a 3.5-inch green button made up. I still use green in my backdrops. Green's my favorite color. Yeah. And that button said, rumor has it we're in a recession. I'm not participating. Guess what happens in markets like this? The losers get weaned out. People that don't have strong skills fall by the wayside. The market is huge with opportunity if you are skilled. And skill today is preparation. And it doesn't matter how much things cost. What matters is how much value you create and how safe you make people think. And that's the job of mortgage and real estate people today. When the market is going to change, seller expectations are going to get upended. We're not in for, a massive decline in the appreciation we saw over the last couple of years, but last year in the entire United States, appreciation was 16.5% all in. This year, it's going to be below 5%. It's still a good investment. It's always been a good investment, but it's been a rocky road with, 30 offers on a property, 40 offers on a property, but it's going to thin out and, the herd's going to get thinned. And, the people that are most prepared for whatever market comes up are the people that survive, and attitude's everything. Perspective is everything. And when things get tough, you get tried. And when you get tried, you grow if you choose to grow. And my pastor, when I was a kid, used to say, tough times never last, tough people do. And in fact, wrote a book by that same title. And I chose to believe that. We're going through stuff, but you got to grow through it. And I think most people try to just get to the other side. I look for the opportunity, like what is really good about this? And so anyway, that's kind of where we started with Alec. But I look today at the market, and I saw something this morning from the chief economist for EXP, and he basically said we're going to have somewhere between 4 and 8 rate hikes. The next Fed move might be a full half point. We're looking at a 250 to 500 basis point lay on top of cost of funds. And if the Treasury goes to 3.5, 3, we're going to be at interest rates of 5.5 or 6 sometime this year for sure, I would guess. So let's get prepared for that.
Yeah, I want to. You dropped a lot of good wisdom there, and I want to unpack that a little bit. A couple things I want to talk about that you mentioned. Last year, for me, what I was working on in myself, I shared with my team a lot going through COVID and leading through COVID and trying to thrive through COVID. I said, guys, I feel like I'm in the fire a lot. You were talking about your pastor, and I was like, the good thing about the fire is fire refines.
Yeah.
And even though it's not comfortable to be in the fire, I was always thankful that I was there because I know that there's a better version of Ryan on the other side of that. And so I would rejoice, I guess, to be in the fire because I know there's a Ryan Hills version 44.0, right? So fire refines. You talked a little bit about that. Also, I was big on finding, and you said this too, finding the opportunity in the adversity. When you have a positive mindset, at least in my opinion, it doesn't mean you don't acknowledge your surroundings. It just doesn't define you. You said that, but there's always opportunity in the adversity. So my question back to you, it's you talked about your grandmother helping you find that mindset, but some people find that organically or maybe easier than others. And some people, and I know because I've led them through the last 2 years of some challenging times, really get focused in and they have that straw-like perspective on the negativity. Can you get coached out of that? And we have a lot of regional directors that listen to this too, and they send it out to a few hundred of their teammates. So they're learning as well, like probably asking the same question, like, Todd, help me coach somebody up that just gets focused on the negativity, the war or COVID or something else. Can you teach that, or is it something that you just have to organically have?
No, man, that's a huge question. I think that everybody's got a story, right? And where we find ourselves is where we find ourselves. And, whatever happened up until yesterday has defined who we are today. And so we have to look at choice, I think. And so we got to unwind some things that are really, really important. I did a video 2 weeks ago, and it went pretty crazy on LinkedIn, and it was called Bad Tapes Are Bad Tapes. And it's all what people say to themselves. And I think that it's very interesting to start to coach people out of, you have an opportunity right now to decide. I mean, you can decide if you're going to choose positivity or choose negativity. You can decide if you want to be an optimist or a pessimist. And sometimes it's a little hard to move from being a pessimist based on everything that happened up until yesterday to some miracle morning of waking up today and being an optimist. I think we've got to learn how to do that. And so part of how our coaches get people to positivity is we really have them reconnect with their why. We have them go through a personal forgiveness process. We have them really understand that you can take any circumstance and you can ask the question, what is good about this? And if you can find the what is good about it, then all of a sudden what's bad is good. And it's really powerful when you start to understand that. And when I did this video, it was like, there's a relationship between your spirit and your attitude. And I told a story about being in Rochester, New York, and I woke up, I had a really exciting presentation I was going to make that day at 10 o'clock. I went to the gym, had a really great workout, came in and wanted to get a little fuel and had some breakfast. And the gal asked me, if I'd like some coffee. And I looked at her like I needed any coffee because I'm usually pretty amped anyway. But I said, I'd love a cup. And she comes over and puts the cup down at my table. And Ryan, she literally backs up a couple steps to pour the coffee as if getting too close to me was going to feel weird, and I didn't really know what was going on. And she filled my coffee cup and then she looked at me and this is going to blow everybody's mind. She said, you have one of those positive attitudes, don't you? And I looked at her and I said, I do. And she said, I could tell.
Wow.
And then here's the question. She looked me in the eyes and she said, can you tell me how I can get one? And you look at a story like that, and I don't know her story. I don't know how she got brought up. I don't know any of that. But I do know that moment in time, she wanted to learn how to be positive. And I don't think there's a person watching us have this dialogue that would say, I love negativity. I mean, I love waking up and looking at things through, this dark lens and this just emotive, like, oh, woe is me kind of thinking. But people are afraid, and I want to share something with everybody just to maybe answer the question just super specifically. There's a word that is spelled F-E-A-R, and the word is fear. And people look at fear, and the normal association of the word fear with reality is false expectations appearing real. We talk to salespeople about call reluctance. Why do you have call reluctance? Well, you have call reluctance because you're fearful. And why are you fearful? You're not fearful because the call you're thinking about making has already gone bad. You're fearful because the calls you've made up until now haven't quite always worked out the way you've wanted. And so you project onto an event that has not yet happened an outcome. You've given your power away with the word fear. And so one of the things that we lead people through is a fear exercise. And we say, what would happen if you faced everything and rose? Okay, same word, right? F-E-A-R, face everything and rise, right? Well, what does that mean? It means how bad can the call go? It's already a failure because you're not going to make it. So why don't we go make the call and see what lessons we can learn from it? Now, I'm not advocating that because I'd rather have you be prepared and make the call and have it work. But as soon as you go through that exercise a couple times, Ryan, then fear becomes excitement. And here's what's interesting. The same word, F-E-A-R, now stands for feeling excited and ready. So you go through this one emotive word, and you just saw, and your audience just saw, 3 different ways to interpret it. Do you know how many success stories are a step beyond fear? And then once you have that, you become more consistent because you're more confident, and you're more confident because you're now more competent. And that's how people rise to a level of mastery. They get competent around things that they know they have to do with confidence. And when they have confidence, they do that thing more consistently, which then unleashes the compound effect, and success just scales from there. So,
man, that's so good. You guys, you're going to have to go back and rewind that segment and slow it down and listen to it again. There's so much gold there. And what you just said, sometimes it's a step beyond fear. Guys, devil's in the details. It's not a mile. Oftentimes it's not a mile beyond fear. It's a single step beyond your comfort zone. If you love that, Todd. One thing that was amazing back in the middle of that story, you were talking about the server that said, hey, you got a positive attitude. Like somehow she organically felt that. And if I can add anything to what you just said, that was really amazing. It was a lesson I've learned over time. And we're going to kind of pivot into growing our business in 2022 here in a second. But through coaching and through trials, successes, and failures, I've learned that it's one thing to go out, and if you're a loan officer and you reach out and meet a realtor, right? That's one way to grow a business, and it's a successful way to do it. I've tried to flip that on our head. It's one of the reasons why we create content and have a gravitational pull strategy. And it's kind of a reverse about recruiting realtors. If you're a regional recruiting loan officers, what can I do to have a gravitational pull recruiting strategy, just like you did in that moment? Like you didn't go out there and say, hey, do you think I have a positive attitude? It was a gravitational pull. She asked you about that. So that was one of the lessons, guys, I've learned over time is kind of just being, you're geared into thinking that what can I do? Because there is a traditional way, and we're going to talk about that in a second, of going out and growing your business organically. But also there's things that you can do to have that gravitational pull as you grow your business, as you grow your region, if you're a realtor, as you grow your referral network. So that's what we'll pivot to, because another piece of your content that was amazing I was watching was the circle of cash flow. And you don't have to go into it in depth, but you can kind of give us a high level overview, because I believe that the market that we're in right now, we've had some amazing success, prosperity for the last 2 or 3 years. That's starting to slow down. We'll acknowledge that. It doesn't have to define us. But whether you're a new person getting in the business or you're somebody that just had amazing success and you're kind of struggling a little bit going, wait, where's all this business? You might have to rebuild your referral network. And that's what your whole talk was about, is either building or rebuilding your referral network. Can you talk about and kind of unpack the circle of cash flow and why that matters to both a new realtor, new LO, or somebody that is facing their business changing right now after 3 years of amazing prosperity?
Yeah. So the circle of cash flow it's a patented and trademarked business strategy that is about a simple idea. And I learned it in my first 2 months as a loan originator, and I shared it with 13 realtors for 12 years. And those 13 realtors and I were able to help just shy of 6,000 families finance and buy real estate. And the way it worked was I got very clear very quickly on something very simple. And my mentor looked at me and he said, the reason why you want to be really good with every borrower is because every borrower will bring you your next 2 or 3 or 4 borrowers. And he said, most people miss that. Most people have a one and done mentality, and they don't understand the value of taking a look at the consumer experience, blowing the borrower's mind, and understanding that they are going to be your gateway to new universes of referrals. And I'm not talking about lead gen. I'm talking about referrals. And so I'll give you 2 illustrations in my own life as a loan originator. I'll give you one about a student that Ryan and I both know that you've heard of. And then I'll give you one that is happening right now, and I got an update on it this morning. So here's a circle of cash flow. I do a loan for a doctor and his wife, and they're thrilled. They call me and say, I'd like to refer you to somebody I know that's having a problem. He's the president of a bank, and somebody that's trying to do some mortgages is just fallen off the cliff, and I think he needs a different solution. So I'm going to refer you. Okay. So a doctor is very, very excited about what's happened, and he refers me to his friend that's the president of a bank. And this bank has 3,500 depositors. And it was a bank called El Dorado Bank. And so I meet with the president of the bank. No different, Ryan, than meeting with a realtor, right? Except a realtor is probably not going to have 3,500 buyers and sellers, but the same concept, right? And so after the conversation, and I told him that I'm different than most loan officers. I'm a mortgage strategist. I help people create customized mortgage plans for their real estate wealth. And I do that in a way that is strategic and mindful of what their short and long-term goals are. And he goes, it sounds exactly what our depositors need. So imagine the real estate agent that referred me to the doctor that now knows I've closed a relationship with the president of a bank, and she now has, through me, access to 3,500 potential buyers and sellers. So you can imagine right there what that economy begins to look like between me and Debbie, who was the real estate agent that referred me the doctor. So we go down that path, and it starts to just kind of go nuts. And in 12 years out of that bank, Debbie had 362 contracts. My real estate agent just out of that bank. So same doctor pings me about 5 years after our first deal, and he goes, "Hey man, I am now the executive director of Western Medical Center, and this is a hospital that's a mile from my mortgage office." And he goes, "We have about 1,700 doctors and nurses, and we have this workshop every month. And we get about 200 or 300 of those people to show up. And it's always on financial management, real estate, money, blah, 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 blah. If we put this together," and it's a hotel right across the street, "if we put this together, could you come speak to them?" I said, "Sure." And so after that speech, I had about 7 doctors that came up to me. Their combined patient list was about 6,000 people. And within about 3 or 4 months, I was now the lender for Western Medical Center, which basically gave me access to almost 400 doctors and almost 16,000 patients. That's a circle of cash flow.
Right.
And so when a previous guest of yours, Denise Donahue, came to the High Trust Sales Academy, which is my most in-depth learning experience, 5 days, and it's just super deep, 400-page owner's manual. Denise, the previous year, had funded only $7 million in loans.
What year was this? Do you remember what year that was?
So she came to 2013's
Gotcha.
event in December, so it would have been 2013.
Okay.
And it's 2022, right?
Okay, good. Sorry, I was just curious because we just had her on the show, and
Are we a
she's
decade
amazing.
later yet today?
Yeah.
No. 2013 to 2023 would be a decade, right? So the only thing she implemented, and she'll tell you this, is the circle of cash flow. She called it the preferred partner program or something like that, right? And the following year, she funded $34 million in 1 year, and rates were the same in both years. And all she did was start cross-selling every financial planner on every deal she did and relying on the borrower and the financial planner to light up her referral network. And as anybody knows, she last year helped over $200 million worth of families finance real estate. That's in 9 years. Using the circle of cash flow, you go from 7 million in closings to 200 million in closings. So that's profound. Today's story is, I have one of our elite members. So we have 34 people that are in our elite group. It's a 1-year program that I lead. Last year, their commissions were $91 million. So they are rock star incomers, $2.6 million a year each on average. And the report I got today is in 2 years, one of the guys I'm coaching decided to go after wealth management and decided to, every single loan, begin to look at the insurance vertical of wealth management. So property and casualty, life insurance, home, those types of things, and began to proliferate Northwestern Mutual. And in 2020, at the start of 2020, his active database was 24 or 2,500 people. Today, it is 30,000, and it's 30,000 because insurance professionals are referring consumers. He's getting their 1098. He's doing a mortgage efficiency checkup, and he is locking and loading. He's got 3 pods that make about 150 calls a day to this database, and he'll be one of the first billion-dollar branches ever in the history of mortgages, billion-dollar branch. And it's like, are you kidding me? So what we have to do is, I also told Alec this. I said, when we were doing that deal, I said, one of my biggest pieces of advice I got was stick your head up above the crowd, look at the way everybody's going, and turn around and go the other way. And I say to people, if you don't want competition, do what they don't, go where they aren't, and say what they won't say. And so people get to understand that. On Savage's deal a couple months ago, he just went nuts on this idea of conversational productivity, and how do you listen with the intent to solve instead of listening with the intent to sell? Because you can't have referrals if you don't listen. So here's all I want to put out, final thing on this. What if you're watching this And what if in the next 12 months, every single person you helped buy a home or finance a home last year gave you a referral and you were able to do the same business anyway, you would now effectively double your business. So why don't we pay attention to this asset, right? And the reason we don't pay attention is because we don't pay attention because we haven't understand the dollarization of it. If people got their head around the idea that your database with about 400 to 500 loyal buyers and sellers is worth about $10 million every 5 years, you would change your entire tune overnight.
With just the one strategy that you talked about.
That's it. That's all you need. That's it.
Right. You could run different playbooks, but just that one strategy is amazing. And I know firsthand, I have a financial planner that has stole that strategy and he is relentless about it. And now, I mean, he's the financial planner to the stars for Seattle and makes an insane amount of money with the one strategy. He has no other play in his playbook. That's it. What you just talked about.
It's ridiculously simple. And here's the point, man. You know, and so why would you not blow a borrower's mind? Like, be the best advisor you can be, ask the fewest questions that have the deepest impact, develop huge levels of personal fiscal literacy so that you can advise and coach consumers in financial affairs. You may or may not know this as you watch this, but about 85% of Americans and about 89% of Canadians and about 91% of Australians say that financial stress is the number one stress they experience in their life.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So why don't we just fix that? Why don't we come to their rescue? We use what we call the white knight strategy. Why don't you get so fiscally literate that you can become the professional debt manager and you can help people develop wealth through real estate ownership by advising them and doing something different. Here's how it sounds. Most lenders are happy to quote you a rate and tell you how much it's going to cost to get your loan. We're a lot different than most lenders. We're helping you create perhaps the largest debt of your life, and we feel a professional responsibility to help you manage that debt and make sure it links up with how you want to build wealth in real estate. I want to design a custom mortgage solution for you based on your long and short-term goals. I want to take into consideration your cash flow objectives and your monthly budget, and I want to put you on the pace to develop freedom financially with real estate ownership. When can we get started?
So good. You talked about Denise. We just had her on the show. We had a really cool podcast. The whole goal for that podcast was I wanted to get some uber successful people, Denise, Bookspan, Savage, DK, and really just kind of back them up to where they began and how they got there. You just kind of told a story about Denise and how she got where she got. I think from memory, 722 closings last year, which is insane. But you've coached with her a lot. You know her intimately. Besides the one strategy, which is, I love that you talked about that. I love giving practical takeaways that actually work and having, an example of it working over a period of time. So besides that, like, what else sets her apart? Because that was my goal, is to try to tap into young Denise, young Savage, because I talk just like you. I talk with people across the nation, and they have a tough time connecting with mega producers and mega successful people because they just think the divide is so big. So I try to back them up and go, okay, well, let's start where they started. And Deborah made a great point on that podcast. She's like, most people compare themselves on chapter 1 to Denise's chapter 30. And I thought it was such a great point, because we do, like, by human nature, we just kind of compare ourselves like, hey, we're still on chapter 1. We can't look at somebody else's chapter 30 and go, oh, I'm not there yet. So let's, with your intimate understanding and coaching with Denise, what else like set her apart to build this amazing business that is the circle of cash flow, like you talked about? And honestly, I point to her a lot, not just because of the marketing and the mortgage nerd and the branding, but she's got an amazing business that is built very, very well. And the referral partners are 1,000% bought in. Besides the one strategy, what else would you point to that sets her apart from her peers in the industry?
Yeah. So I guess before I answer that, I want to say two things about the lead up to answering that. The first is, I think most people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in a decade. And I think that's the first problem is we got to be a little bit more long-term thinking, because if we build it right, it's going to serve us long-term. If we build it wrong, it's never going to be able to hit scale. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing that I want to say, and I think it's specific to the idea of why are we doing this in the first place, is the faster you can achieve mastery level of efficiency, the faster you can scale. And I have people often, and I really want your viewer to be contemplative when they hear what I'm about to say. When people kind of tell me their story, I know whether it's been a hard ride or not. And I remember one particular story, and the guy was really just, kind of bragging on what he had done, and he was going off on all these different levels of just trying. I don't know if he was trying to impress me or not, but whatever. And I said to him, it sounds like you haven't been in the business for 20 years. And he looked at me and he goes, what do you mean? I've been in the business 20 years. And I looked at him, I said, I don't think you have. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I think you've been in the business 1 year 20 times. And he looked at me and his jaw dropped. And he says, what are you talking about? And I said, it doesn't feel to me that your business lines up with your experience. And I'm just being honest. If you're 20 years in the business, you should be like retired, and you should be doing loans because you want to. You should have a team and you should be really, really wealthy because you should have been taking your revenue and you should have been making really wise investments in things that appreciate. But it sounds like it doesn't even sound like you're there yet. Am I right? And it was like, I think sometimes we have to take the shell off and we have to take the posturing off and we have to, I need to help people get real because people have helped me get real. And so I think what Denise has that separated her from, most other people, and certainly there's hundreds of people that are Denise's that do this business well. I think she had a thirst for greatness. I think, that she had this, here's what happens at the academy. The scales fall off and people go like, wow. They develop a new belief window about what is possible. And, I tell people that your belief is everything. It's more important than your knowledge at the start. You got to believe that something is possible. And my son Matt is a really talented musician and artist, and he does metal art with welders and plasma torches and stuff. And I told him, I said, you do believe that your art is going to sell, right? And he goes, it's really hard to believe my art's going to sell until I sell a piece of my art, Dad. And I said, yeah, but if you don't believe it's going to sell, then you're not going to make great art, and you're going to have a negative attitude towards making your art. And if you have a negative attitude towards making you art, then you're not going to do the things that need to happen for you to sell art. And he said, yeah, but until it happens. And I go, it's not going to happen unless you believe it's going to happen. And I'm going to remind you every day it's going to happen. And today, just 7 months after that call, he's making $10,000 a month. He's 24 years old, and he's doing custom-made art for people all over the world. And I asked him yesterday, I said, do you believe you're going to be a worldwide artist? And he said, yeah.
Oh,
and Denise,
yes, I love that.
No, he's 24 years old, yes. Right? And he's in his lane. And Denise was the same way. When I told her you could do $100 million, I told her this when she was at $7 million. She had to believe that was possible before she would ever start to move in that direction. And here's the deal, Ryan. It's really about perception. It really is. And so one of the things I do in the academy is I look at everybody and I said, do you believe you can make $2,500 an hour? Put your hand up. And no hands go up. It's like, okay, so why is your hand not going up that you can make $2,500 an hour? And the answer is because I've never done it. Okay, great. Do you think it's possible? I'm not sure. If between now and Thursday I could show you the actual formula to help you make $2,500 an hour minimum, would you promise me you would use it? Put your hand up. And every hand goes up, right? So I said, here's the first thing I want to do. I want to tell you that all you have to do to be successful is work 24/7. And people look at me like I'm crazed, right? No, seriously, all you have to do is work 24/7. 24/7. Anybody can be successful if they work 24/7. And everybody's looking at me like, God, I don't want to do that. Well, and do you think I would really mean 24/7 if I told you that? And I said, so what was your belief window? When I said 24/7, what was your belief window? And your belief window was, there's no way I'm going to work 24/7. That is stupid. Put your hands up if that's your filter. And everybody's hand goes up. And I said, okay. I said 24/7. How about 24 hours a week, 7 months a year? All you have to do to be successful is work 24 hours a week and work 7 months a year, and you'll make $2,500 an hour. Now, what do you think?
Right.
And everybody goes from not possible to, I don't know how, but I sure like that idea, right?
Exactly.
And so this idea of belief is what feeds attitude. If you don't believe, you're not going to have a positive attitude. And I can teach skills all day long. You know, it's like I got that nailed, but I can't teach you anything if you're not open to believing it's possible. And that, I think, is the root of the question. Denise saw that it was possible. And now, you know, she's got an eye on 350 million.
Yeah.
So and the reason why is because she's done 200. But she didn't believe 200 was possible when she was doing 7. But as soon as she hit 100, it was like, now I'm going to 200, because she doesn't want to go backwards. Yeah, and nobody wants to do that. Like if you know, in our coaching company, we help you define your gap, your income gap, and like we tell people, like if you go from 10 grand a month, to like 30,000 a month, would you ever really want to go back to 10 grand a month? And nobody says, yeah, I'd love to go backwards. Nobody wants to go backwards. And so I said, so then now the belief window is, if you make 10 grand a month, do you really believe that you could make 10 grand a week? And then like, if you can get to 10 grand a week, is there anything wrong with earning 10 grand a day? If you earn 10 grand a day, do you think you could earn 10 grand in 2 hours? And that's all we do. We help people change their thinking about cash flow and what can happen. And there's a direct relationship between labor in and money out. It's that straightforward. And the most efficient people win, and they have the greatest profits, and they have the greatest repeat and referral business. And by the way, back to the circle of cash flow, the thing that made Denise's business scale so fast is referability. When you are referred to people, and you're talking as a loan originator or a real estate agent to people that are referred, they trust you faster, they say yes more quickly, they shop you less, they negotiate less, and they know more people for you to be.
And she's got some deep referral partners. These aren't just surface level relationships.
Unbelievable.
Like there should be a masterclass just on her connection, because these guys are bought in to her, and you're 100% right on the things that you just listed when you have that. And
I'll do that. I'll do that masterclass on connection.
Yeah.
Chemistry, connection, collaboration, conflict management, and cementing the relationship. There you go.
I love the belief, and it's kind of full circle when you got into the business. And you told the story about just going out with the belief that we're in a recession, but I'm not. So it started with a thought, you know, a belief, and then actions followed. You know, so if you're not liking your actions, like I love what you're saying, like you have to change the belief and the thought around it for your actions to follow. We've gone long. I got one more question though. Thank you. Like I'm not just saying this because you're in front of me right now. This is one of my favorite interviews in recent history.
I'll keep going whenever you want to stop. I'm good.
It's so good, man. 30 years later, still dropping like amazing truth bombs and knowledge. Thank you. It's been amazing. And kudos to you. And, you know, we talked in the green room, like we struggle to be relevant 12 years later. I'm happy. And I think that we are. And kudos to you doing that, you know, 30 years later, still with amazing truth, ideas, thoughts, and strategies. So huge kudos to you. We'll wrap though with all of this success that we just talked about for you, yourself. This is kind of the question I love to ask everybody. I asked Denise and Deborah and Savage and recent guests. So if I were to hit the reset button for you, but you get to retain all your knowledge, all your wins, your losses, everything you've learned over the last 30 years, I hit the reset button tomorrow. And tomorrow you wake up as a new realtor or LO. So you can speak to both sides of the audience today. But you have all your knowledge, but you're starting from scratch. You kind of talked about, I'm guessing I kind of know your answer based on what we talked about. But what are the first steps if you have to start over, but you have all the knowledge that you have now and build that business up to, say, Denise's level and then beyond that? What does Todd Duncan do as a new LO, new realtor tomorrow?
I would take the advice that the Todd Duncan in 1980 got from his mentor, and I would take that in 2022. And the advice I got from my mentor in 1980 and how I would restart a business tomorrow, and I would scale it faster than you could ever imagine because of this one idea. So my mentor looked at me and he said, you know, as you continue to grow the business, and this is probably within the first 30 days, I guess, maybe 60, he said, you got to make a decision. It'll probably be the most important decision you make in your life relative to this career. And he said, do you want to know what the decision is? And I said, yeah. And he goes, you got to decide if you're going to pursue transactions or relationships. And he let it just hang there for a second. And then he said this, transactions will make you a living. Relationships will make you a fortune. And I closed with my team over 500 loans a year for 12 years. And we wouldn't have done that without relationship. Period. End of story. And I would tell any realtor and any lender today that if you do this right, you talk to 4 buyers a day, 4 sellers a day, 4 borrowers a day, and you convert 25 to 75% of those to contract, you, at closing 90% of them, will close between 200 and 600 units a year, period. Now watch this. How many relationships do you need to produce 4 conversations a day? Well, if I'm in lending, I need 10. And each of those relationships need to guarantee me 2 referrals a week of buyers that are going to have the capacity, the desire to buy a home. And if I'm really good at my game and I ask the right questions that absolutely obliterate the competition, not because I call anybody out, but just because I'm good. I'm good and I understand how to advise people. And 1 says yes, okay? 2 more give me a credit pull. 50 to 70% of those go to processing, 80 to 90% of those close. I only need 10 people. That's 80 consultations a month. So how do I make $1 million? I move the 200, which is converting 1 out of every 4 every day, to 2 out of every 4 every day, to 3 out of 4 every day. And I get that good that 2 to 3 out of every 4 conversations I have with borrowers end up closing. And just do the math. If I'm at 600 units a year and I'm making $3,000 a unit, I'm at $1.8 million in cash flow. You only need 10 relationships.
That's amazing, man. Well, we'll wrap with a similar question, opposite side of the question, though. We'll get kind of into some humility here. I kind of talked about, and I think you were saying, hey, man, if I could do this, if I can rack and reload and do that again with all my knowledge, like I'm going to build it faster is kind of what you said. What was the one thing that maybe you wouldn't do again? For me, I had some success early on in my career, but it made me a little bit fat and happy, and my work ethic suffered. And I just look back and go, man, I could have done so much more because I thought success looked like something, and then I reached that, and I just took my foot off the gas. So for me, that's one that sticks out. I wish I would have worked harder, more efficiently, worked smarter. And I just got, that's the danger of having a number be your success, your goal, whether it's a $10,000 a month or 100 closing or whatever, you tend to cruise a little bit. And that's what I would do differently looking back. So if you got if we asked you hey, we just talked about what you do again, but what would you do differently? Looking back, maybe what was one thing that you wish you would have done differently 30 years ago, now that you know everything you know now?
Yeah. I think the first 10 years of starting the business, the thing I would have done differently is I would have changed my why. And my why was to take my mortgage career and be a speaker and seek notoriety and maybe fame. I don't know. It was I got intoxicated with the idea that I could be in front of people and I could teach them things that worked. And that was always true. And the first 10 years of my speaking career, I look back on that and I would change that. And I'll give you one example just to be completely vulnerable. I remember being in Atlanta. I was with the Atlanta MBA, and I had 200 people in the room. I was 36 years old, and for whatever reason, the mic wasn't working. And I got really, really mad. And I got frustrated. And nobody could fix the mic. The guys at the soundboard couldn't fix the mic. And I took it off, and I was trying to change the buttons and everything. And I just got frustrated, and I threw the mic back. I just took it off and I threw it to the ground, and it was completely unprofessional. And it I think it destroyed the value of my talk, and I got letters and stuff. And I remembered I started thinking, this is not about me. This is about them. And I changed my, my whole kind of why, and why are you waking up every day, and what is this really about? And so it took about a year and a half to really go through a transformation. Here's the deal, Ryan. I wish I had. I'm glad I did. I wish I had learned that lesson faster. I'm glad it didn't take 20 years to learn it.
Yeah.
Because what I did within about a year and a half is I just took the spotlight off of me and I put it on my clients, put on my customers. And I had an experience in those 18 months. I had 3 people call me that were going to commit suicide, lenders.
Jeez.
And because of my new tone, they chose not to. I sat down with 9 couples and ministered to them in a way that we saved their marriage, and they saved it, but I was just a conduit. And I got really clear by the age of 37 that I'm on this planet to make an impact in people's lives for the greater good of who they are. And if I do that, I never have to worry about, me. And it was so freeing. It was so freeing. And people continue to tell me, even to today, that you just continue to connect at a level that's deep and vulnerable. And I think as we mature, we develop at least safety. We understand vulnerability. I study connection, and people connect when you connect. And, we know that emotional connection is the number one driver that helps us in business create relationships that last a lifetime. And we don't do enough to do that. And whether you're speaking to thousands of people or whether you're speaking to a husband and wife, it's not about you. You take the spotlight off of you, you put it squarely on the customer, and you make an impact. I talked to a lender yesterday, and I'll wrap with this, and you can take it anywhere you want. But I talked with a lender yesterday, and he said, you took me through that Talk Less, Sell More, which anybody can download from our website, but it's a 20-page white paper on conversational productivity. And I made a challenge to him about a month ago, and I said, I want you to figure out one question that you're going to ask your next 10 borrowers, and I want you to test whether or not that one question is enough to get them to say yes. It's a pretty profound idea, right? And so he gets on and we do a follow-up, and he said, this is unbelievable. And I said, give me at least one story about what happened. And he said, I'm meeting with a husband and wife. They're moving from Anchorage, Alaska to Portland, Oregon. And I'm having a conversation, and here was my question. My question was, what would it mean to you both to own a home? And he said there was this kind of pause, and the wife started crying within about 20 seconds, and the husband's eyes glassed over. And they took over 5 minutes to answer the question. And the answer to the question was, we would be the first couple in the entire lineage of our family to own a home.
God, what an amazing question.
It's just one question to a bar, nothing about rate, nothing about product program.
What's your budget? You're like, what an amazing question to
none of that.
Connect you like nobody else. God, that's
yeah.
amazing.
And so here's what the husband did. The husband looked at Tim and said, do you think you can make this come true? And he said, yes. Would you like to get started? That's how long it took to convert that borrower. And the loan is closed, and the celebration was off the grid.
Yeah, if you go back to what you talked about earlier about chasing relationships and not transactions.
Yep.
Holy smokes! Another practical takeaway on this interview: ask
100%.
that single question and then watch what happens. Todd, that's amazing, man. Good Lord. Well, if you're picking up what Todd's laying down, we're going to put all the links below to get in contact with him. I liked the interview that you had with Alec. We're going to post that as well. I don't know if you have any more coaching opportunities with your company, but I'm guessing that people are watching this going, I want to plug into that a little bit more. So we'll put that link below. I don't know if you have any openings. You guys are obviously very busy, but we'll put all those links below. And Todd, man, this has been great. I hope we can have you back on. I hope you're open to that, because this has been one of my favorite interviews. And I think we've got so much more to unpack here, man.
I'd love to do it. Let's make an impact. And just come to toddduncan.com. You can check out everything. And We do have room for 42 new students, but we've scaled our coaches. And, I think it's an important time to look at how are you transitioning through, an industry and, what do you want your life to look like? And man, we just wake up every day. We want to make an impact. We want to make a difference. And it's a joy if we get that chance. So.
Resource Nation, you just heard it. So it's going to be probably the first 42 people that call so we can max them out just with our audience. I mean, man, this has been really good stuff. Thank you first for what you do for the industry. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
And if you're open, we'll absolutely have you back on. Guys, this has been awesome. Thanks to Todd. This is one to share. Again,
100%.
if you're regional, you lead 400 or 500 people, this is one you definitely got to share. It's so practical for the industry and where we're at in the environment that we're at. Absolutely share it. Realtors, same thing with you. If you guys do your monthly or weekly meetings, hit play, sit back, let Todd educate and coach your team up here because it was a good one. Thanks again, Todd. And we'll see you guys next week.
Yep. Thanks.